And good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Patriot Morning Show with the Cornbread Man, Dave, in the AM. Early on your Thursday morning, you're making your way through a work week, and hopefully my stream will be solid today. I've not had the best Wi-Fi of the last 24 hours. May have to switch over to the other one. I rebooted the system last night and just watched. It is not the most stable thing this morning. I'll work on it today and get in touch with them if I have to. Storms have not made it the best, but right now it's holding. So hopefully it will through the hour. Good morning to you. Hopefully you are having a great morning thus far. Have your morning coffee or whatever your morning go juice is for the morning. Some might like the cold coffee. I tend to like the hot. And this morning I'm drinking the 55coffee.com. We are making changes today to get our coffees in motion. Been talking to the company we're working with, and today is the day that we're going to submit the early stages, the early versions of the coffee that we're going to be using. We'll have many blends, but we're hoping that we will have eventually some of all of what they offer, including occasional holiday blends and things like that. So we'll see. News about that later. Good morning to you, though. But happy Thursday. Hope the weather is good for you. Hope you slept well. It's always a success if you slept well. If you sleep well, your day will probably go pretty well. If it does not, it is a battle, as we know, to stay engaged into the day and stay awake. Or if you're working all night, you're one of those graveyard shift kind of folks. I understand that as well. And, worked that many times. You're trying to, this is the time of morning where your third or fourth gear kicks in. And then it's hard to go to sleep sometimes when you get home. But I've worked all those different shifts, every kind of shift just about you could think of. I probably worked it at some time in my work career. First shift is my favorite. I just like getting up and getting going, and I seem to work better that way. That's why I think I do well. Even though sometimes as you get older, it can. If I don't sleep well, it's hard to it's hard to drag up. But once I'm up, I'm up. So sometimes it's a push in the mornings to get moving, but I have to push myself. But once I'm up and going, coffee's flowing, I'm good. I like getting into the day, and that's why I was going to say I do better a lot of times on morning shows. But I do hit a late night gear. Like I'll get tired around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then about 11:30, I kick in again. I have to watch that. If I stay up too late, I will end up being up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I have to really push and watch myself on that. Yeah, make your way through a work week, and you got the weekend ahead of you. The weather's been hot, stormy, rainy, all those things, and so you get a lot of different kinds of weather. You get everything from the hot, steamy day, or you get the all of a sudden the downpour, the lightning, the wind, all those good things, and then it gets hot again, steamy, and we're in that kind of mode right now. The rough and tumble, storms can be very violent in the short run, and then they're gone. And so that's what we get here in the area that we live, and you just deal with it. So here, whatever you're dealing with today, God bless you, and hopefully you'll have a great day out there. And get back this evening. Tonight will be Cornbread Nation show, our once a week. Look, where we do several things. It's a scripted show. It's the only one that we script. We have themes for shows, but it's the only one we script. And we try to have humor. We hopefully today. I don't know our sports show. I got to get with the guys. I can't remember. I'm sort of off. We got my schedule got shifted around. So the racing hour I know is tomorrow. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to do our racing hour recap. I've got everything ready to go. Dean's got everything ready to go. We're going to recap Mexico and SVG's win. We'll highlight that. And then we got our sports show. That may be tonight. I'm going to find out. If it is, that's also 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Broski is out there lurking somewhere. I challenged him to come up. It may just be audio. I don't know if he may be camera shy, But I challenged him to come up and defend his mouth last night when he said that the Big Ten was college football's best. So he said he's willing to do it. I said, put your money where your mouth is. And he's willing to do it. So we may get to hear from the great Broski Bear. A Philly boy transplanted to Charlotte, around Charlotte, North Carolina. And he likes the South, but he sure hasn't adopted any SEC ways. So we've got to work on that. He's Ohio, Ohio State or whatever he is. I don't know what he is. I know he's an Eagles fan. Of course, he's. I'm gonna pick on him. He's not in the stream right now, so if he's listening, he'll fire him up. I would say he's probably one of those jump on the bandwagon guys. I'm a fan of this team. It just so happens they just won the championship. Is Broski that kind of guy? He's a fair weather fan. He jumps from team to team. I'm one of those suffering fans who has liked whoever I've liked for the better or the worse, and most of the time it's been the worst. You can't if you've been true to your teams like the Braves, the Falcons, even the Hawks, then yeah, you've suffered long and hard. You got a few things in there, so it's tough. But hey, I suffered 40 years of my dogs not winning, 40 years, and then back to back, baby. So maybe we'll see it again in my lifetime. It's kind of funny when I was. I wanted to see him win, but as you get older, and I was 15 when they won. That's the championship. I remember it, and my sons were born, and I wanted my sons to see the team they love, the team they rooted for, win a championship. I wanted to experience that with them. That's like was my goal. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that, but I enjoyed it more for watching my son, who was faithful. We did season tickets, and went to the games, and he just was so disheartened, that they get so close and then they would crash and burn, and so watching that championship season and seeing him enjoy that, and then to have it back to back was truly special. I like to see him win, but if I never see another one, that was well worth the wait. So it was kind of cool for Dad and the grandkids. They're kind of in and out. They ain't really not really fired up on. I mean, they like them, but they got other interests. Girls, they're not fired up on other things. But watching my son, it was great. Both of them, but especially my oldest. He has the Georgia Shrine going on. We don't have to worry about what to get him for a gift. We just add to the shrine that he has for Georgia. But hey, whatever you're a fan of, whoever you're a fan of, if you're a sports fan, those are cool. And whatever sport you are, that's cool. If we've seen the hockey championships come into play. We'll be talking about that on the sports show. NBA Finals. We're going to talk a little bit more about the WNBA, the violence that is escalated again on Caitlin Clark. We're going to talk. I'm just giving you headlines. We'll talk about on the sports show. It's obvious that they're trying to hurt her. Obvious. It's not just intimidation. It's obvious that they're trying to hurt her. And the WNBA is going to have to step in and do something. I'm not just talking about for one player, but any player. They're going to have to tighten up, and because these thuggish players are hurting their sport, and they're going to lose. Everybody's going to lose. And they're going to lose a lot of money, and they're just too dumb to see it. They think they're playing into that toughness, but they're going to end up killing their league because if they want more money, you got to put more people in the stands. And yeah, you play hard, but it's obvious that they're just trying to hurt her. So that's ridiculous and sad, but such is life. That's the way it is. Good morning, Spartan. He's already given me he gave me some website and did nothing wrong. The Colonel did nothing wrong. That must mean the Colonel's guilty. I'm just kidding. I even had my first sip of coffee. The Colonel did nothing wrong. Well, the news, we're on kind of a hold. What's going to happen in the Middle East? Who knows? We're getting on war footing. I mean, it looks like we're traveling down a certain road, been talking about it in many shows or most shows for days now. A third U.S. carrier group is headed to the region, USS Gerald R. Ford carrier group. Um, Ford, whenever it's funny when you think of certain presidents, they name, or whoever, they name ships after them. In this case, the carrier. But if you're thinking of a president, what is the first thing that pops into your mind? And it could be funny, or it could be crime, or it could be greatness, or it could be anything. And I don't know. I guess because the press played it up so much when I was a teenager when, or not even a teenager yet when he was. I was younger than a teenager when he was as president, and they spent a lot of time talking about his horrible golf game. And so, whenever I think of Gerald R. Ford, and I think of his ugly golf pants, the '70s golf pants, and you had to watch when he was on. He was on out there on a drive or something. I mean, people get hit in the head and stuff. He'd slice really bad. It's the president. What are you going to do? The ball comes in, smacks. Everybody's running, trying to avoid the ball coming in. I mean, the guy had a horrible golf game at times. I don't know about always, but the press really burned that into my head because every time he would be on, I mean, it seemed like often it would be showing him with a just a horrible slice going on, hitting trees. So that's what I think of when I think of Gerald Ford. That and some crazy kooky lady tried to, assassinate him. And what was win now, or win buttons, the win buttons. That's absolutely what I think of. It's funny. We should have that one now. We should have that as a topic. What is the first thing that pops into your head when you think of certain people? For good or the bad, as your kids, you really burns into your head anyway. It's kind of where most of those things kind of get burned in at. Oh, that's good this morning. Good coffee. But you think of, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? I mean, with Richard Nixon, it was the step up the steps to leave, and victory. And I think of his after the presidency. Everybody saw his knowledge. He was a very smart guy. He had some, now look at what he did. I mean, it seems minor compared to what goes on these days. But did what he did, got caught, and but the tapes and all that. So, but I think of the after he left, all the presidents while he was still alive, they all came to him for get his thoughts on stuff. And so you'd have these the interviews. They did a lot of Richard Nixon interviews after, and he could cover a wide range of topics. He had been involved in politics for so long. And sorry, allergies are killing me a little bit this morning. But he was really sought after. I mean, all the way up. And I think the last one that I'm trying to think. Was it Clinton? I think was the last one that really was able to have a sit down with him. But his foreign diplomacy knowledge and stuff like that. Of course, his work with Henry Kissinger, and I know some people don't like that connection, but it's history, and it's a part of history. And I think about those times that he sat down for those legacy media, as we call it now, interviews, and it'd be a wide range of topics, and he was very well versed. And had came up, through some, very interesting times as a politician through the 50s, obviously into the 60s, and then in the early 70s before his career ended. But he was, well sought after for that. I don't, and no disrespect intended, but I don't think anybody was going down to Plains, Georgia to talk to Jimmy Carter about his foreign diplomacy thoughts. I really don't. Now, they might went and talked to him about humanitarianism and things like that with Habitat for Humanity and stuff. Sure, but he was not that guy. That just was not his thing. Jimmy Carter, from Georgia. That's what I think of with him as Plains, teaching Bible school, Sunday school, and the Peanuts and that big grin, and the hostages. Those are the thoughts that pop into my mind, and the failed rescue mission. And I mean, it was very frustrating. As a kid, I didn't understand. I didn't look at things through political lenses. as a kid. You think about it. You're not really a party. You don't really know the platform. You hear your dad or your mom, especially my dad. My dad was very opinionated. Uh, you know, everybody's dad. Well, we still do it, but especially back in those days, the dads all talk to the television. Usually they were angry, watching Walter Cronkite or Dan Rather, somebody like that, and they would, my dad's favorite saying was "ah bull," and I would hear him say stuff like that. Pardon me. I would hear him say things like that, and he would get mad at the TV. That when he was mad at the Georgia football for not playing well, or the Falcons or the Braves or whatever. So those are memories I have. But you would catch news bites. We didn't have internet. We didn't have news 24/7. I remember when that came into being with CNN. You had news bites, and you watched your 6 to 6:30 news for your national or local, and then your national 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'm thinking for my life, and you would get these sound bites, the Vietnam War reports early on, every broadcast, and you would get the political side of things. And so I didn't look at things through that spectrum. I just looked at things as he's the president. He's the president, and what are they saying about the president? So to me, it wasn't Republican, Democrat, or anything else. It was. Now I remember watching the 1976. Both I think conventions, or at least pieces of it. Again, it wasn't on all the time, but there was extra coverage where they would show more of that, and you'd see the various states. 76 was great because it would have it was the patriotic, and so everybody seemingly was highlighting the flag and the colors of the USA. And for us here in America, it was great because it was very patriotic. As a kid, as a 11-year-old during that campaign or that run, it was great to watch. And I just was fascinated by those different states that were together. They have the big signs, they held them up. Texas, I can remember that one stands out more than any, was Texas, and their Texas colors and USA colors, and watching those from both parties. And I thought, what a great thing. I'd love to go to one of those one day. I still would. I've never done it, but I would like to do that. Uh, Spartan says, we watched the news but did not know who owned the news networks. Yes, sir. And again, just watching it does have an effect. And, those, sometimes as a kid, because, I was raised in a conservative family. And sometimes you would just feel like something didn't seem right. It was like, I might not even be able to fully explain it at the time, but something didn't seem right with the coverage. Like that didn't seem to fit. And so I started forming opinions, certainly. Like I was very excited that Jimmy Carter was going to be president because he was from Georgia. That was huge to me as a kid. Like it was a source of state pride. But by the end of his term, I was disheartened and sad and so ready to see him go. And that 76 to 80 for me, my age and kind of where I was at, 76 to 80, I watched politics with my dad. I really dug in more during that time. That was a tumultuous 4 years because, towards the end of that 4 years, not only was the president going south, my mom's and dad's marriage was going south. And it was towards the end of that. So I was, it was a tough end. The 70s. I was looking forward to the 80s. I know sort of, I was getting closer, I was a teenager. I was getting closer to, and I really wished that I could vote. I was really wishing that 1980 presidential election that I could vote, but I couldn't, obviously I wasn't old enough, but I watched all of it. And that was when I really began to form ideas about parties, still not really understanding who's for what. Cause I'll be honest with you, I was not raised that way. My dad never preached party that I remember, never. Which I think gave me a great benefit because it let me form my own opinions. He was obviously conservative, but my dad would disagree with Republicans often. So it wasn't. I didn't look at party. I looked at the person, which is a good thing. And the party's platforms were not as wide apart back then, so it was very more narrow. And it was really centered over taxes. Who would tax you more? That's what was talked about in my home, the tax part, jobs, because that it was a struggle through the 60s and 70s, and people, that was the energy prices, gas, grocery prices, just like we do today. But it wasn't these other major issues. It wasn't until a little bit later that began to form in my mind what those things, what they were standing on. So I really looked at people more than party. I didn't really even understand party. I started hearing the platforms. But in the 76, I began to definitely know there were people that I didn't want elected. Even more so by the end of that term, I was really locked in. And so a lot of people today, and I've got friends that still crack on Ronald Reagan. I'm going to give you my perspective, and it doesn't have to be yours. So we're all individuals. I do think he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest president. You could argue that with some people hate Trump. Some people didn't like him. And the media mocked him for his acting, and you remember all that. But I'm going to tell you what he brought in was that his wit was amazing. If you've ever read any of his writings, which I have, and you really, his quibs and stuff, and he carried himself really well. And so my biggest thing was he was from California, and I thought, I don't know if I really want this guy at the beginning, but as it kind of went on, I began to really want to vote for him and could not. So you got to remember the time frame, the hostages in Iran. It's amazing as we think about what's going on now, and I just wanted him to come home. It was really angering me. 444 days, I think is what it was. That was, and so I knew that when Ronald Reagan came in, those hostages were going to be released. And that was a great day. I was sick and tired of seeing Americans paraded before the world in blindfolds and threatened. And that was the first time I ever really paid attention to terrorism and things like that. And so I wanted them home. So it was the hope of a new day. I know a lot of people fiscally, they would say he did good or he did bad or whatever. But American confidence, consumer confidence soared as he come in. And people we kind of left, dusted off the 70s. The 70s were a tough time. The violent end to the Vietnam War, the hostages. We still had racism issues that were, had rolled out of the 60s, and there was still a lot of that going on. There were still, major job issues. Every day in the news, we would get the jobs report, the amount of unemployment. I remember that being definitely something that my dad would focus on, and he worked. My dad always worked. And but to him, I mean, gas was, I don't know, 50 cents a gallon or 47 when I first started paying attention. I remember hearing him complain about it. And I thought, I didn't really get that when I was a little kid. I did by the beginning of the decade. I didn't get that, but by the end of the decade, I got it. Just that traveling, that maturity in my mind of paying attention to issues. I started paying attention to, crime, and started paying attention to what the politicians were saying, realizing broken promises, what that meant by, what that meant, military, started paying attention more of who, because I was always very strong in military. I think my dad ingrained that in me. But I always felt, I wanted them to be taken care of. I wanted a strong military defense. And, I didn't want to be, it was alarming, the things that was going on in the Middle East in the 70s and just many other conflicts. It was, it was an age of war. And, I remember watching those images that came out of Vietnam and the Middle East. And, it's, then you rolled into the early 80s and you had Afghanistan and Russia. And anyway, it really helped to frame a lot of things for me. And so certainly I was voted the second term for Ronald Reagan. It was my first time to vote. And gladly went in and voted. I think I was certainly paper ballot back then, and was glad he won. The second term of Reagan's president, 8 years was difficult. It was frustrating. The Iran-Contra affair, all the different things, that happened. It was hard for him. He did, stand down, Russia on the treaty, and there was a lot of things, but it was rough to watch that not end the way he wanted. You could see the strain on him as he tried to navigate that. And some say that his early, dementia issues and stuff were probably coming into play. And I think it's very possible. That they're shielding us as a country from that, just like it was this last four terms. Looking back, I certainly could see that. There were times he looked like he was really labored. There were times he looked, you didn't see the same energy in him as you saw the first 4 years. He was still out there getting it, still trying to make things happen, but the losses were hard, and it's like he couldn't get out of the suck, as they call it. He just couldn't really get above that, and it's really amazing. And some people just go through life and never watch that. Spartan says, "You felt in your life there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there." Yes, and I definitely would agree with that statement. And it was frustrating to me, and it drove me to really want to understand even more. Of course, his vice president became president, and we had, again, it just seemed like we were things didn't go as we'd like for them to go. And again, I think two things is, and I appreciated some things about Daddy Bush, as they call him. There were some things I didn't like. It's funny when I think of first things that popped in my mind. Obviously, his failure, his tax statement, that stands out. But crazy things, you never know what sticks in your mind. His getting sick, I think it was at the Japanese function or something, and he was throwing up or something, and it was kind of a moment because the president's like sick, and the press is scrambling, like, oh, is he okay? Because the president's, something goes wrong, that heightens everybody's attention when you're worried is what's going on. It was kind of in some ways an embarrassing moment, but at the same time it was was there more going on? It was kind of a scary moment because it's like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on with the president? And he looked like, I don't know, he sort of looked like the school, the school teacher, the professor or something, with and so you roll out of all of that, and then the country made a shift, and that set the course for a lot of things after that. That just kind of brings you up to what, and I left out many things, but as I was, and I remember in, oh my goodness, I think it was, let's see, the first, 88, 92, that election run, I think it was that election run, was the first time that anybody, and you got to remember, I want to say it, I don't mind saying, I identified as an independent for a long time, because I was not raised to be party. That was never a part of what I was ingrained into me. So I didn't identify with either party, and so people would, because they would hear me speak, they would say, "Are you Republican?" I'd say, "No, I'm an independent." I'd say, however, when I go to the voting booth, you can't. I would just say Republican because seemingly more people on the Republican ticket was kind of who I was wanting. Not always, because again, the parties were closer, and on especially on local things, when somebody party didn't really come into play very much at all. And so there were, I'm sure, people I wanted to vote for locally that was not on my, it wasn't on my ballot. And that was frustrating to me, like, hey, wait a minute. So I would say independent. But I remember in 1992 coming up on that election, and I was talking to someone at work about, this is the first time I ever got attacked politically in my life. And I wouldn't say attacked, but it was a snarky comment. And I remember I was at work and I was leaning on the work desk or watching the machine run. I was talking to another guy. We were talking about the presidential election. And I made some statement. We were just talking. I made a statement. There was a lady that worked there. I didn't even know she was there. And I remember her saying this statement. And she said, "Spoken like a true Republican," just as snarky. And I remember turning around and I remember saying, "Hey, hey, what are you talking about? I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent." So that tells you even up into the '90s that I was not. There was a time frame where I was very critical of the Republican Party, and I didn't like. They didn't seem like they had it together. They didn't work together. We still see that today. And I would say they would, and so they would challenge me. They'd say, "Well, who do you vote for? You don't vote independent. You vote for Republicans." I said, "Generally, yes. Generally, yes, I do." But I said, I'm not party. I don't have a party. I'm independent. I vote for the best person who's available. And people would laugh at that and say, you're trying to hide. And I said, no, I'm not. That really didn't come into play until, oh golly, I'm trying to think. I guess it would be, well, the Clinton years cured me of that, without a doubt, without a doubt. Thank you, Clintons, because after that time frame, it was never a question again. So, if you liked them, you liked them, but not me. And so that sealed it for me from then on, going forward. I definitely did not care at all for to say after that. It was very easy for me to say who, what, when, where, who I was for, and all that. I definitely didn't have any kind of problem making my wishes or thoughts known about that as I headed forward into my political thoughts and stuff like that. So I don't know, but it's really interesting. I thought about that this morning. I didn't plan on taking that journey, but I think it's important. And so when we think of young people today, and we get frustrated. I think young people always look for the hope of change. I think I felt that when I was young. I understand that. And to me, Ronald Reagan epitomized for me that change, a freshness, a fun. It felt good. It felt like we needed something. It had been that last 4 years with President Jimmy Carter was everything went wrong. Seemed like just about everything went wrong. The gas prices, the Iran embassy situation, many other things. And I was looking for a change, and pretty much people, pundits, look back and they paint those years as the country was feeling that. That's why he swept through. He wasn't looked at as the favorite early on, but he just killed it. He just mowed down his opposition, and those classic debates. Those classic debates, and he just was so good at phrasing things and crafting his responses. And even when he was sick, it became famous and they show it all the time, when he told the guy, "Oh, just shut up," and they cheered. Again, I didn't. It was not a time of computers. We didn't have smartphones or nothing. Those debates became very important. We read the newspaper, sure, absolutely, but to see the visual of that was powerful, and it really kind of planted in your head. And so when I look at young people today, I don't fault them for wanting. I mean, let's face it. These crotchety old politicians, sometimes that's what they look like and sound like. To a young person, it's like, my gosh, I mean, Night of the Living Dead. So you got somebody coming along that's younger, fresher, change agent, and that's why it really. Can we fault the nation sometimes on why Barack Obama rose to power like that? Well, he could have a dynamic, projection, and he tried to look cool, the cool president. And young people just fell for that. I mean, I get it. I understand why. If you're not, if you're voting for the first time and you're not political, you're not really paying attention. Imaging is everything. I mean, they're putting down. That's why it really was. It started. It certainly started a little earlier, but I think the Obamas put it really well. The use of social media was absolute a killer for them. I mean, they slayed, even back to Clinton. They were doing that stuff too. But it really, when it got to him, they were seeing him in different ways as they crafted that through social media and stuff, and that plays a part. So we look at young people today. We got to realize how much attention are they actually putting on this stuff. I think parents are truly trying to work with their kids a little more now and let them know, pay attention. I think there's a lot of young people very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. The work of Charlie Kirk and others who are on the college campuses and having those debates, I think those are critical things. And it does have an effect. There are young voters that come in that have they're very opinionated and not just change. They're coming in with certainly ideas of what they want. And of course, there's groups out there that were paid for a lot with our tax dollars that were crafting these political, marketing ploys to make the young people get their vote, and they turned out in the droves in some cases, and so when the power of Trump, the power of Donald Trump is, they said that conservatism is dead, that the Republican Party is dead. I mean, I can remember people telling me that, and I said it's not dead. Things are changing. Things are changing. There's definitely a change going on, and the parties are changing themselves, and they're looking at different groups. Now today, I would say the Democratic Party is dying. And there are a few Democrats out there, they'll disagree, but they're eating themselves. They're being devoured by the extreme parts of their party. And it's not playing well. I mean, they lost, and it's not stolen. It just lost. The country rejected largely the way that party's going, and they're going to have to rein that back in a little bit more towards the center. And if not, it's going to be really hard for them. I think there are people that certainly can do very well in politics on that side, depending on area, certainly. But overall, as a nation, it can be, and I would say for the Democratic Party, one of the things they definitely miscalculated on a national level, and just looking at it from my perspective, they looked at the influx. Obviously, people were concerned about the undocumented, the illegal, whatever, getting them the ability to vote, and convicted felons and stuff in prisons. There's a lot of this kind of work going on. And you get people in your country that automatically vote for you. One of the things I certainly think they miscalculated on, and it's starting to play more and more into it, is a lot of Hispanic families are very family centered. Where they've been destroying family in our country for some time. It's been an obvious agenda to destroy family. I mean, the media ridicules dads. You have a lot of fatherless homes. I mean, they make it hard for older people who meet to want to get married because they take away part of their money. I mean, they've been destroying marriage. They've been an agenda to destroy marriage, destroy family in this country for some time. Hispanic families are very large, and they're very family focused, and they miscalculated on this in a large way. And even among people that that are Islamic or Muslim or whatever, they're very large families, and we may disagree on a lot of things, but they're very family, and they didn't like some things that were going on, obviously, in the Middle East. They didn't like. I mean, there's some things that they're rejecting too. That's why some politicians are moving to the center and independent. And you want to call it the uniparty or whatever. There's definitely a push for the uniparty to come in. That's just people that are a little bit more towards the middle on either side, and both sides have this. The uniparty is, and they're saying, look, we don't have anything to do with the extreme. These people are nuts. We don't have nothing to do with that, and we're going to work on issues, and we're going to work together. That's what you're starting to hear in some of the platforms, even here in Georgia. Politicians are looking that way, and they're trying to marginalize what they see as the extreme parts of their party. It could be effective. It could be effective. I'm not saying the right or the wrong of it. I'm just saying, as you look at it in a political action committees, it could be effective because people would tend to want to see that. Because what do they want to see? I think people are a little sick of the drama, to be honest. The 15 minutes of fame top politicians. who stand and rail and rant and everything. I think a lot of Americans are a little sick of it. And when you get down to issues, we may still be very divided, but a lot of them yearn for let's work together and get some things done. Uh, and I think there's obviously a pulling, back to the center. It's not. They're not just standing on each side of the center and shaking hands across the middle like some soldiers that were opposite party. It's not that close, but it is a little more pulled to the center. And I think it shocked the Democrats how much the far left rebelled against Joe Biden. They absolutely rejected him, and it shocked. It sent shockwaves to the Democratic Party. There were times he was challenged at events, and some of it was his mental capacity was bad. He didn't know how to respond to a lot of stuff, but you could see it on his face when he got attacked by people that were Democrats who said, we reject you." They started calling them names and stuff. They didn't know how to handle that. They weren't used to that. They thought, hey, wait. We're the party of the people. They said, not this people. And you could see that they were scrambling. You could see the staffs. They were just like, oh no, what's this? They'd set up a town hall or something. It would go downhill, or a press conference. So they began to limit that. And all that was not just because of his mental acuity. That definitely was a part. But what they also were frustrated with was there were people who were starting to be heard in their own party that were saying, "We reject you, bud. We don't want you. We don't like what you're about. You're not taking care of this. This is important to us." And so that it was like, wow, what's going on here? And it was for all the world to see, and so it was very frustrating. Spartan says both parties are infiltrated by. Well, that's true. I'll give you that. There's definitely that. Hey, and in every state there's lobbyists, there's groups, and who gets that? Who gets the ear of the politician? There's a lot of money spent, certainly through AIPAC. Yes, there's a lot, but it's not the only one, man. I know that you're focused, but there are so many groups that are funneling money into campaigns. The energy groups, the hospital groups, I've seen it on state level. I've been at the Capitol, and you see these groups come in. And some people, think that lobbyists are really good ones. It's a necessary thing. Some people can't stand them. It does seem at times like they're, for any of you that might hear this and you're a lobbyist, because I know some. Don't take this wrong, but some people, it's the feeling of some vultures flying around. and they got their hooks into some people, and people say something about the money that's the dinners, the dinners they take them to. Well, you're going to have to provide all the receipts for that, dude, because that's an allegation, and I get it, but that's not the only group. And so until we get a full receipt of that, it's all a bunch of conjecture. We just don't know. That's what Americans want to see. And I'm a believer. And me and you would agree. I say release all the data that we have and know about what happened with Epstein and Epstein's Island. I don't care who it nails. I do not care. When it comes to the mistreatment of children, or human trafficking, or women being done that way, I could care less about who you are. As I went on this morning, I was just looking at the local news that popped up, and a person I worked with in trouble again. It's kids, it's like my thoughts are for the kids. So these that have been done wrong. And so whoever and wherever it goes, the search for truth, wherever it takes you, wherever it leads, whoever it takes down, I could care less. In fact, I want that. And I think most Americans want that. I don't care who it is. I mean that. I don't care. I don't care. This is not a party thing. This is a right and wrong thing. And no matter what country, because it's not, it's all around the world. But let's not just stop there. Let's move on, because there's a lot more going on here. How about the 24-hour weddings and divorces of these young girls on these sheiks' huge yachts? I mean, if we're gonna expose it, let's expose it everywhere for everybody to see. And who's involved in those parties, and the abuse of women in the Middle East and throughout a lot of the world, including Iran. I say let's expose it all because it's not right. It's abuse. It's wrong, and I could care less where it leads. And certainly there's going to be that where it leads to. I'll agree with you, but that's not the only place, man. That's not the only place. So from the halls of Washington, D.C. and to every capital around the world, expose these perverted, evil people, and they get what they get. And I say extreme justice. So I'll stand on it. I'll stand on it. I'm not here to defend a party or anybody when it comes to this. I will not, and I won't make excuses for it. As long as the receipts are shown, but I want them for everybody. I don't want somebody getting in control and saying, "Hey, good morning to you, broski. Bless your heart." Yeah, wherever these people are being taken from, wherever these networks are, expose them and burn it to the ground. That's what I say. Burn it to the ground. Abuse is abuse is abuse. At this point, I don't. If that leads to my own country, if that leads to people that I have voted for, burn them down. But you got to bring the receipts for it all, and we're not being given that by whomever. It's being obviously protected by the people of power. And I don't care I don't care where the vaults are on that. If you say it's there, man, it's there. Fine, reveal it. I could care less where it comes from. I could care less what nation, what power group, what politician, what political action committee, state level, county. I don't care. Burn it all down to the ground because abuse is abuse, and you have to stop that. And I'm not for that. I'm for people, and I'm a pro-life person. I don't hide that, and we have well, you've heard me say this. We have a responsibility to stand up for kids. We are the adults in the room, and we have a responsibility to stand up and defend the kids around us. And if anybody's covering up crimes like that, you're scum. You're absolute scum. And defend these kids. I'll lay down my life for kids. Any kid is in harm, I will stand in the way of that harm if I know what's going on, and I will reveal it. I will turn people in. I could care less. I am sick and tired of seeing the damage done by young people that are just they're in this horrible environment. And so if that's being that's just in people that are live where I live, all around the world. It's sick. It's everywhere, and including, like I said, just looking at the news and someone I worked with. People I've shook hands with. I've talked about the Lord with, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's sickening. But again, I don't care. I don't care. Perp walk every single one of them out. I'll be the first one in line cheering on the people who are arresting them and taking them off to Alcatraz or wherever they want to lock them up at. That's me, So, well, and I will agree with you there. And there's a lot of us that are podcasts that are very upset about this. They look like a hostage situation almost. Like their eyes, like that. It didn't look like the same people. It did not look like the same people. In the way of defending kids, Celtic Blacksmith, Operation Underground Railroad is a wonderful charity focused on protecting kids from pedos. Shout out to them. Okay, thank you for throwing that in there, Steve-O. Operation Underground Railroad. Let's leave that up on the screen for a minute. And if you've got funds that you can, they always say there's no donation too small, and I'll look them up today. Thanks, Steve. Absolutely, man. There's is that the ones that goes and gets those kids back? I think I've heard this group talk on the radio on podcast, and they were ones that were trying to help with some of the Epstein folks. I may be wrong on that. You could enlighten, and I know you're driving, going to work. But I do think I like to highlight these folks that are out there trying to expose these networks and stuff and get these kids back, including all the kids that were taken out of Ukraine into Russia. My God, what's happened to those kids? Broski Bear, that's what Ukraine was for, hiding money and running women and children. Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe by far. Um, there has to be an Epstein-Ukraine connection. I would agree. I think too many people talked about it for there not to be. And so I say, and so I would like, to, whatever happens over there, whatever happens, and I don't know what's going to happen. Is Russia going to roll over Ukraine or whatever happens? I would hope that whatever happens, there's an exposure of the whatever nefarious things have been going on in that country. I hope it's all exposed, just like I do in America. Expose it, burn these freaks down. I have no love for anything like that. And let's go back. I mean, if including, and I'm not throwing names out there, but it's been rumored for a long time, including some that are still there. But the abuse of young men, young boys in the halls of Washington, the pages and stuff, that was a big story back some time ago. But that cover up has went on for a long time too. And I would say, you parents, it's an honor to serve as a page. Absolutely, it's a great experience. It can set a child on a future in politics and stuff. It's usually somebody and you got a connection. But watch these idiots, and don't just turn your kid over unfettered to these. You might not know what's going on, and you may get a damaged kid back in some cases. Certainly on a national level, it's like the worst kept secret that's happened in D.C. and it's sick. Celtic Blacksmith. Remember that movie that came out a couple years ago about child trafficking, The Sound of Freedom? The guy who that movie's about is the guy who started Operation Underground Railroad. Okay, awesome. So they actually save kids. Also, you can purchase merchandise in the store, handmade by survivors who were rescued. How cool! A serious business. I'll give them a look over today and see if I can't purchase something. But the most brutal abuse is done on private islands such as Epstein Island or on cruise ships. That's the rich and powerful, So we stand united in that conversation today, and it's just sickening to me. I have no when I burn them down, like I said, it's sick, and kids for generations were not believed. Let's face it. Families ignored it. Families and people, and they prey on people that have financial difficulties and stuff. You go back to the thing that happened at Penn State. Sorry, Penn State fans, I'm not trying to bring up bad memories, but that charity there was dealing with kids who had rough home lives, and they had access. And I've told this story. I remember a young guy, and me and some of my friend Dave Cook. He was in last night talking. I had to bow out early. My internet was really bad last night, but I just watched. But anyway, we went to play for a church league. And I'm a pastor. There's good, bad, and everything. And the church may have been great, but they had a bad dude over their athletics. But I remember going, and we were going to play for this basketball league. We didn't even go to the church, but they didn't seem to care. And we went up there, and after one night of playing basketball up there, I told my friend, I said, "No, I'm not doing that." And I told him, I said, the guy that's over your athletics at the church is a pervert. And he's like, no, that guy's a nice guy. And I'm like, dude. And he was probably 14, 15, somewhere in that phrase, and he was, because he didn't drive yet, he was being picked up. And so long story short, this guy kept defending him, and we wouldn't go back. And about, I don't know, a couple of months later, maybe even a month, he had walked home from this guy's house, and he convinced some of the kids to stay over at his house. And the dude made a move on him. and he ran out of the house, and he walked all the way home. It was miles, and he got there, and he said, I feel so stupid. He was devastated that this person that he looked up to in a church was that way, and he said, you guys were right. He said I should have listened, but he said I was just blind to it, and he said he just crushed him, just absolutely crushed him. Nothing happened, but he made that attempt, and it's and on that note, when Democrats say always believe the women and stuff, but then they don't do that. They don't always believe the woman, and so again, that's not a party issue. I only mention it because I've heard them say that. There's some real freaks in both parties, freaks, and it may be more in one than the other. That may be true, but perverts are perverts, and they've infiltrated in a lot of areas in our country, ingrained themselves in small town. You got to be on guard for it. But you're right. The rich and powerful, they certainly have the means, the ability to get these, and the undocumented workers. Like I said, even the ones who had work visas and stuff. What about these rich elite freaks that took their documentation and hid it from them and kept them as like slaves, or they knew they were here illegally and they told them they would expose them and turn them in, so they kept them as house slaves. And there's no telling what's happened. There is no telling what has happened to these people, and that is, what, there's a special place in hell for you. That's what I say. Anywhere in hell for you, but I think there's a special place. It's like in prison. There's the sex crime wing, or whatever you want to say, block for those people. Well, that's why I say that. There's probably a special area of hell for all the people that have been child abusers and female abusers like that and stuff. And it's sad. It really is sad. Let's protect the kids. Let's protect the kids. Let's always ask the questions. It's refreshing to me to see the parents that, because I've got kids that I carry to school. I've got kids that look up to me and adopted me as a grandfather. And me and my wife work very hard to keep, everything on, if we're going anywhere with somebody's kids, we're keeping everything communicated. Of course, nowadays they got phones, and, we always have male, female. We always, do things the right way and communicate. And even if someone has said, "Oh, I trust you," no, we're going to do things the right way, because we don't want anything said later. You just never know, and you should want that level of protection for your charity event, your church, your home, whatever it is that you're involved with. And if anybody resists that kind of exposure and communication, whatever, you need to leave. Don't have your kids around them. I remember here a while back, my granddaughter, she's had a couple of 3 crashes on bicycles and hoverboards and everything else. And we went to go have, she had hurt her wrist, and she was going to have a cast. So they went to take the x-ray. Some dude shows up in the room and says, "Oh, here to take Kaylee for her x-ray." And Kaylee looks at me immediately. I was already moving that way to stand up. And because Kaylee looks at me, because she's looking at this, this beefy dude. And honestly, I'm not saying he was, but it spooked her a little bit. And I said, yeah, we're going. He said, "There's nowhere for you. You can't be in the room while the x-ray is going on." I said, "Well, there's a place I can stand that's safe if it's from the hallway looking in." He goes, "Well, yeah, you could do that." And I said, "Then that's what we're going to do." And my granddaughter, the whole time they were doing that, was looking to make sure that I was still standing there as they were repositioning her arm to get the different looks with the x-ray. And I'm glad that she has that, that sensitivity to that, and here a while back, there was a couple things that she brought up, and it just shows me how on point she is with stuff. And I so appreciate that. And I think that's just my influence of, protect yourself always. If something don't feel right, don't do it. Call me. It doesn't matter what time of day. There's something wrong. You let somebody know. And she's very good about that. And it doesn't, you always have to stand guard. We don't let her guard down. I'm just saying that I think that she's very much on guard with that. But you know, these family trusted family folks. I don't care who you are. There's protections that you be put in place for our kids, and you don't let your guard down. I don't care who it is. The family friend, that's always some person that's all of a sudden showed up on the scene. Uh, we had a person. I mean, if look, pull up your street and look at all the abusers that live within a range of your home. Here in Georgia, we have the state database for that, and it is so sickening to pull that up. You got to force yourself to do it. It's so disheartening to see all the sex abusers and how far where they live at. They're actually running out of places to put them. Why? Because there's so many of them, and that should tell us how sick the world is. It's running headlong towards hell, and a lot of it's paved with sexual deviancy and abuse, and it's just horrible, absolutely horrible. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. As a pastor, a small church, and over the years, have had many people. Obviously, they're broken in their life, or they've been broken. They're trying to get their lives on the right path spiritually. They got all this baggage from the past, all this baggage, and every person, male and female. The males usually, it takes a long time to get a male to admit it. Not that you're looking for that. You're just trying to get them, to get help. They just start talking, and they just need to unload those things. And every time, in my experience, every time has been a child sexual abuse. They say it. If they don't say it straight out, they use code words, or they'll say it in such a way that you kind of know who it was, but they just can't go there, and that's fine. It's not for me to know, but you have to. Um, Celtic, yeah, I keep that database bookmarked. I did a routine check-in one day years ago. Found a guy who I worked with who was charged with abusing a 14-year-old when he was in his 50s. Yeah, man, you got to force yourself to do it. You got to. We had a guy on our street. He's dead now, and he was in the database, and he would walk a dog, down the street, and we felt like he was walking the dog just to get a look at the girls and kids in the neighborhood. And he stopped one day in front of our houses, and we told him, like, "Hey, you get on." And the girl, it's sad to say, we couldn't get authorities to do anything because he didn't do anything to break the law. And I swear, at one time, thank God it's not that way. There were several of us homes that had young girls with grandparents. When he come down the road, all the kids would come in the house. Whoever's house they were at, they would just come in the house and wait till he passed by. And they would alert us, "Hey, that guy's coming." And we never let them catcall or anything. We just said, "Look, this is a person, you got to stay away from that." I'm tortured this day for not outing him at work, but it could have got me fired if I turned the villagers against him. I think we've all struggled, Steve, to be fair, with things that, um, it's, I get it, man. I get it. God bless you for, saying that this morning, because I think those are important things to say. I believe the Georgia State Patrol, I could be wrong, but I know the Georgia State website has it, but I think it's underneath the GBI. And it's pretty easy to find. If you'll just do a search, you'll find it. I did watch him like a hawk, though. Yeah. Yeah. And you start seeing stuff, too, when you really start paying attention. And, for the one that we worked with, and when it got outed in the public, a lot of people were on Facebook, and they were saying, "I'm so shocked," And the ex of those abused said, "Really? You couldn't tell it? Like, really? Pay attention. You pay attention a little bit more." And people start noticing behaviors and patterns and stuff. Ernest from Rumble's side, the adoption of kids to gay couples who also needs to stop too many cases of child sex abuse. The horrible story of the two men and the abuse and killing of that child. Oh my gosh, again, there's deviancy that's going on, and we got to protect the kids. And let's face it, state agencies they don't have enough help, and that's a burnout job. That's a burnout job. You don't see people stay in that job too long. They see so much. Oh my God, it never ends, and the case workload they have is so much. They honestly they can't give each one the full work that it needs. I believe that's what I believe. And there's been some that they just was taking the money, didn't do anything, and kids died. The throughout the state of Georgia, there's been a review, a revamp. I hope things are better, but it's just overloaded. But every time you would see people in your local area that do that, it just changes a lot. It changes. Maybe not the office workers, but the field reps, the ones who go out and deal with this. You know, I had one guy, and he because we were dealing with a case where our granddaughter was removed, and I just remember things that this guy said. He was straight on, just tell it like it was. He would do it. He didn't do it in a condescending way, but one time one family member says, "What can I have to do to be able to see this person as much as this person has access?" I'll say it that way. And I remember the guy looking at the person and going, "Well, do you do dope?" I was just straight on, because he said, "We'll start right there. Are you a dope head?" Sometimes you can't tell. I knew a guy in my late teens, early 20s. He was just as goofy and fun as everyone else in the friend group. Nothing out of the norm till we found his mugshot in the paper. Fair enough, Steve. There are those that can mask things very well. Martin, I used to talk to a girl that worked in adoptions in her past. She said is extremely corrupt. Celtic blacksmith abused both of his girlfriend's daughters for years. Oh my God. Oh, it just breaks your heart. The dad side of me comes out. It makes me angry. So angry. My heart just breaks for these kids and the devastating. And if we're not careful, then this generational thing happens. The kid that sees the daddy, punch the mom in the face or the head, and they grow up around that, or they have been abused, and it manifests itself in different ways. But certainly, it's a life filled with failed relationships, drugs, abuse, or allowing themselves to be abused. And some people break free. I know successes. I do. I know people that have overcame these things, and they are loving. They have great. First of all, they're people of faith. They have great marriages. They have great kids, and they are great gatekeepers for their kids. And they have broke free. And it brings a tear to my eyes sometimes to see, because I can remember them when they were in the brokenness, just the brokenness, and how that was manifesting itself. And seeing them break free of that I hope I'm the biggest cheerleader. I am their biggest cheerleader. Just you keep going. And the past is tough, but we can overcome those things. We can. The past haunts us a lot. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, boy or girl. I promise you, there are so many boys that have been abused, and they just hide it in different. Like you said, Steve, that's a great point. You can't always tell. And since he was an abuser like that, he probably was abused. It's not an excuse. It's not. But this person was probably abused, and it's just it's a sickness that is getting worse in our nation. But you're right, Spartan, the corruptness, and it's just horrible. And there's a podcaster I listen to, Spartan. You would really like him. I really believe you would like him. It's on the I listen to on Podbean. I ain't got to listen to lately, but in fact, I got many episodes. I need to get back listening. Bards of War, BOW on Podbean. Uh, he uh, he is very outspoken and out front about when are good, when are men going to stand up and defend the kids. He is adamant about it, and some of his programs have been just, I mean, it brought me to tears, and just he's very outspoken about a lot of stuff that we talk about today and throughout our programs, but he's greatly connected to the military, and then you get in the military and what our military men have had to endure with cultures overseas, we'll say, and we know where we're going with that. I don't have to say it. Don't want to say the wrong thing here and get in trouble, but we know what our military has been exposed to and have been on trial. In fact, there was one where the president pardoned. I think that was one of the cases where we've seen what has happened. Um, where we've seen what has happened with when they were exposed to that, and it snapped. These people are dads; they got kids at home, and they snapped. And they were told just ignore it, just ignore it. How do you ignore something like that? How do you ignore it? And that is the problem. We just ignore it. I know it's a political thing now for that, but how do you ignore that? And what kind of damage have we done to fighting men and women, but mostly men who have come back, and you talk about PTSD, and they talk about the screams they heard. My God, we have not even begun to see the mental health issues that's going to come off of this. It's going to take a few more years. This is going to become a big deal, and unfortunately, I think it's going to we're going to see this manifest itself in some violent, probably suicides and the deal. It's driving a lot of problems. These men have not even begun to talk about. Some of them just clammed it shut. They have tried to erase that from their memories, and they can't. Those screams are there, and my heart goes out to them. They didn't ask to be put in that situation. They were forced into it as they have to go where they're told to go. But to be put in the same multi-story places where they were sleeping and have to hear that coming from the floor above you and stuff, or seeing it, folks, seeing it. We need to really think about and whatever the expense is in our for our military and for people, civilians, for mental health issues. But these soldiers that come back, they need a lot of work, because it's very hard what they've saw and what they've heard. Not just the war part. That's just bad enough. But when you get into these other things, and these were the people you had to work with every day. These were the good guys. Oh man, I can't even begin to think about what that must be like for them. And I don't know that everybody experienced that, but enough of them did. And it's talked about but not talked about, and that's going to be a continual. That's going to show up in our country in the years to come. And let's pray for those men, and I hope they can truly get some counseling and some help. They got to get that out as best they can. They'll never forget that, and they're going to wake up the rest of their lives hearing those screams. It's already happening, but it's going to happen more and more. And some have come back and they've went through some tough times and they've gotten better. But it's always one of those things you got to stay on guard with your mental health, because those images and the things they heard, the things they saw, you can't ever get that out of your mind. It's always going to be there. And there's always going to be a need for that. And people that have been abused, it's haunting to them. And how could it not? And you hear these young girls talk about the things that they did at night to protect themselves. It makes me so angry. It really makes me so angry to think about anyone having to live a life like that. Here we have adults that are supposed to be the protectors, stand in front and keep the evil away, and they're the evil. They're the ones that are, bringing the crimes, and then they have to sit and watch everybody pat them on the back and hear them say, because like you said, Steve, they don't always know. oh, you're a great dad. And the kid's thinking, great? My God, if that's great, what's bad? That's horrible. That's absolutely, it's just horrible. Anyway, tough discussion this morning. I know some of you are headed to work. We're going to reset. Got some things to do today. We'll get off of here. I have an audio show to do, and then I've got to get ready for some business things. Tonight will be for sure, Cornbread Nation show, maybe a sports show. I got to find out. And then MAGA, we didn't do our MAGA report last night. We'll do that MAGA report today. We may do that at early time. Hey, have a good day, Ernest. Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate your input. Thanks for everybody that's listening across the streams. I see the numbers, and sometimes I don't see your names. Sometimes I do. Just know this: we are honored, we're humbled, and we appreciate it. You're always welcome to take part in the discussion. Just keep it. Don't attack people. And you're free. We try to keep it open and free. We're not trying to control anybody's thoughts or how they believe. We just ask you to keep it, don't be offensive and don't attack people personally. And it's like anybody. That's just common sense. And we like to have that. And it's been a great discussion this morning. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening and or commenting on target. And thank you, Steve. And I'm going to go back up and make sure I've got that place. Let's see here. I think I've remembered it. I want to make sure I go back and get the name of that organization, because as soon as I get off here, I'm going to look them up, Steve. Thank you so much for that. There we go. Okay. Thanks so much. Have a great day out there. We'll go out with some music. And again, I'll be on the audio side on Podbean. I have a show called the Cornbread Man Morning Show. I usually do it before this show. It's going to be after. If you have Podbean, welcome to listen. We'll probably dive into a little more politics. I didn't jump there today so much, but a little bit more. This really just was needful, and we got to talk about stuff like this. And again, I'll say it. I'll go out with this statement: wherever it leads, whoever it takes down, I don't care. It doesn't matter what party. It doesn't matter. I don't care what entertainer. I don't care if it's the person I bought every CD, record, downloaded audio. I don't care who it is, whoever the abusers are, perp walk these freaks and put them in a dungeon. Well, we could say more than that. I won't, but you know what I mean. Give them their quick trial and deal with these people and get them out of our societies. They are nothing but demonic cancers upon our human beings, upon our young people. And I don't care how old they are or how long ago the crimes were. Make them pay for their crimes as best we can. We can never take it back. We can certainly level the full weight of justice upon these people, and they should never see the light of day again. You cannot fix them. You cannot fix them. And I don't care who it takes down. I don't. Take these people and deal with it. And let's clean up this sin in our nations, and our families, and our politics, political parties, whatever it is. Expose them, bring them down, and I'll be the first one standing up cheering that you did it. And like Steve, all of us have struggled at times to say, well, if we've got information and stuff, about certain things at work, and I get that there are things. I get it. It's you struggle sometimes with what. That's why that's why all companies have hotlines now. That's why you have hotlines, and to let things know where you're not targeted. And so anyway, utilize those things if needed. And if you're a person listening and you've been abused and you've not turned in your abuser, we hope that we can give you the courage to step up and get help, first of all, for you, and turn these people in. Doesn't matter how long it's been. And there'll be people that will surround you and help you. And there'll be people that will believe you, because I know that you worry that people won't believe your story. There will be people that believe you and stand with you as you go through and reveal the tragedy that's happened in your life, and get help wherever however you need it. I would encourage that. And if you are a person that has experienced those things in the military or whatever, and you have bad thoughts, go get help. Go get the help. Don't let it, it's not that you can remove it, but you can get help to deal with it. And those demons are there too, and they're not going away, but you can navigate it. I'm not a mental health expert, but I know there's resources out there. And what we don't want to see is you become part of the 22 a day or the 42 a day or whatever it is. Good morning, Miss Jeneth. Steve, you're welcome. There's a tab for ways to get involved on their site. Might be an opportunity for the podcast. Excellent idea, my friend. Excellent idea. And I'll certainly look. I'm going to look into that this morning. I see your other comments, Steve. Spartan. Yes, something I'll put on screen, but I see it. And I hope, Miss Jen, I hope you're having a good morning. Thanks for coming on last night. I was having a little bit of Wi-Fi issues, and I rebooted, but I just ended up watching you guys. You guys doing a great job, and I just wanted to watch and then help my wife a little bit. So I did fix it, but I believe. But I appreciate you coming up. You're always welcome to come up anytime, and you're great people. And Steve, I think you're going live tonight, right? I think tonight is that tomorrow night? Maybe both nights. And did you do your market? You'll have to tell us about that. I think Steve's at work, but he probably can't listen too much more. But hey, we'll see in a bit. Patriot Mobile, make the switch today, and use that promo code Cornbread. Also, Mammoth Nation. We've got links for that all over the place. And you follow our link, it'll help us. You'll be helping great American companies and save yourselves a lot of money by buying American made products. Absolutely. Tonight is the market. Yay. I hope you do well, man. I hope you do well. And I wasn't kidding you, man. I'm going to buy 2 things on your table. I am. It was not a joke. But you got to put the podcast name out there. Maybe we get a QR code for you. We'll figure something out. I appreciate you, man. You're good people. And you're good sport. We probably pick at you too much. We do it because we like you, but sometimes I think we need to back off here. You are Celtic is he's a high intelligence dude. Very, very quick in his mind. He's much quicker than I am, and very knowledgeable. He absorbs information. He's a sponge for information, and he jokes around, cuts around, but he cuts up a lot. But he's a deeply caring person, and that obviously comes out. And you've been around good folk. They gave you some good values, and those things really come out. And all of our people have just great high value people, and that comes through, and you can see that. I got to make up some kind of QR code. Yeah, you're cool, man. Hey, whenever, however, I think it'd be cool. I just like to see if we ever got to buy it. I don't expect anything here. You never know, but I just thought it'd be cool. We'll work together. We'll do the same thing for you. We try to do that with the podcast and, popping up your things. In fact, going out, I'll definitely do that. Y'all give him a follow. He's a fellow podcaster. He was podcasting, I think, or at least was very involved before us. And he already had the store, and has this friendship has only grown, and we're the better for it. I don't know what we offer to Steve, if anything. Probably a lot of frustration, but he's been a real friend to us, and be able to come on and put up with all of our shenanigans. He's obviously good people, and the only thing I would like to see one day for Steve-O is this: I want to see him find that person, which is his life partner. That he's going to have. I want to see little Steve-Os running around. That'd be the coolest thing, is to see a little Steve-O with Steve Jr. in the shop, beating on the steel, or have a daughter and she'd been there too, beating on that steel. yeah, we are the distraction while you're in the shop. He's like, I got to get back to the chat. What are these people saying about me? No, you do a good job of blocking it out sometimes. But you do a good job checking on the chats. Sometimes I'm just watching, not even talking, just watching. And I try not to distract you. I like for it just to watch your creations and stuff. You do a great job of that. Have a great day, folks. kick a Thursday. You know what? One of them I titled this boot kick morning or something. Boot kick this day. Don't let it get you down. Keep your joy. And boot kick those perverts, and get them exposed and turned in, and let's get some kids some help. And this group that you're gonna be hearing more about that, because I want to go look at it, and we'll try to have something even not the show tonight. We'll maybe have a card. I don't know, because we script and we don't talk a lot through this show as far as those things, but we definitely maybe could get a card up for tonight. So we'll try to do that. All right. Have a great day. God bless.
front porch on a Friday night with our friends. Life is good. Come on by and take a chair or lean on the rail. Let's have laughter and remember fun times on the front porch. Robin Dave always had the light on for fellowship and making memories. We will try and make you stay the best it can be. Yes, life is good. Sometimes life gets in the way. It's hard to smile on the front porch, but our friends remind us we are still here and care. Yes, life is good. Southern fried parchas sitting on the front porch on a Friday night with our friends. Life is good. Friday night is a front porch night and all is right. Yes, life is good.
But he's an old school kind of cowboy. He's a backwoods barnyard farm boy. He's red, white, and blue. He's in a bluegrass band. They call him Cornbread Man. And he's saving people money all over this land. Just use promo code Cornbread. If you're a redneck, a good old boy, a farmer, a hunter, a truck driver, a tractor driver, a cowboy, an army veteran, a Christian, you wanna save money and save America, Cornbread Man's your man. He saves people money, he saves them all over this land. Just use promo code Cornbread. It's in his blood, it's in his veins. He's the kind of guy you can't contain. He's American as apple pie. You don't wanna mess with this guy. He's Cornbread Man. And he's saving people money all over this land. Just use promo code Cornbread. If you're a redneck, a good old boy, a farmer, a hunter, a truck driver, a tractor driver, a cowboy, an army veteran, a Christian, you wanna save money and save America, Cornbread Man's your man. It saves people money, he saves them all over this land. Just use promo code Cornbread.